It's like the peak number very interesting right now. It's for like going on, it's like main battle like nothing about the creative like that about me. And then by the level of dominant and what I could struggle and but then so great for the still dominant into green up for point or for like the most of opponent and basically they are like dominant to feel also the thing is that they have like really difficult like the one for opponent and will be about to walk away. Like at that point, I'm thinking that the opponent would have still managed to make somewhere and like and the number of phone behind that. So that has taken like pulling out from the like an ultimate sequence where the like the move against like zombie it's controllable thing that way spike zombie while zombie would be having like down things and working that way. Zombie man handle getting things not going smoothly for like zombie man and like zombie getting difficult and champion at that point by like the one sort of one is that going to say it's not and that way at that point I'm going to bring zombie being on to the ground like the then get to that point of like sitting in my friend looking at like zombie might be at least priority that can be that that like your might want to that just might be definitely turn into among them might be that capture the video solely due to that zombie man's last fan from that zombie might be I think more than that so bring that your monster might be extremely cool and about like what if you have like any more on something else like might be the getting thing. So do that way, like the game something like that trying to like force demand into that consuming that most of the different different by perspective and after your government at that point that we going through one that that monitor that your government or that point zombie man like the encounter of head on the black wagon trying to like make it towards like fix but but like along the way that mission 45 that basically from the exit it was like the scenario that I'm going and so that so there's like important things for and the among the like so the more find them so to find that the other among it also explore a good control of like the freedom battle effect and and they leave the European monster at that point telling that telling zombie man that they that not at all like used up all like like permanent in like possible like position and the that it zombie man right now it agrees to the content that the most of the that mission for D5 will definitely right now only like the market but also and like a to be and then also like the girl who was not getting and zombie man that is the that Wagner was only trying to like do that and do a that is responsible to be along the lines and when that like that club putting down just club zero zero is like the top priority priority to be right now and now that the majority of critics right Europe are I'd like another association based that care at all is that bagan away from even if to get out the lines and participating for like the other at that point that talking and something managed to like convince that the zombie man was like that like and that point I'm going to dominant is that getting out the land of land exactly like that what you're like expecting like the top priority should always be like back at mass like skill and the skill to be along the lines like from the man to the thing and that connect the line of that's an also thing kind of the line of like the thing is that dragon mass is like fully managed to negotiate on the position base then at that point like he can open one of like the man we also like the because they to be able to like keep it you wouldn't have to like fall back anymore and be able to think their back is to be like able to have 100% in their planning against like some of them and like at that point like they would definitely be able to like how the most not go to the in the lead one time for all to be alone then I number six thing the document by that point it can have such language the same as so definitely I'm looking for that way Zombieman at that point like deciding to like agree to that competition of and together have a motion and will leave uh in exchange for like fair info that basically like consuming information itself my certain that dragon not being adult to like shit that Zombieman at that point like consuming that to send the text down that and everything and at that point I'm looking for actually I'm very excited really certainly curiously like it's, waiting for like that the transformation of like the zombie man. It was like one first version of like not that but like I'm to like you know the song of like the younger like zombie man again with the continue like the same and for like zombie man losing its lack of mortality and turn into a mortal monster that still does not that only don't it's like the name of it very interesting right now is that like the vampire monster maybe might be partly immortal, might be like it is maybe like the vampire monster might be able to take away life souls of like other monsters that humans in order to that it's surviving might be that power of might be like the power of like the vampire power of like partly mortality that like maybe like the vampire monster might be having a certain or the remaining monsters that way might be single of like the vampire monster for that present might feel like the action of the game definitely might be very temperate right now. Well, so that you know the theory of action right now is that zombie men that regenerative powers may be superior to it. That the vampire monster that regenerative powers might be like that to the game, especially my very but like I'm right now the like maybe and even if like a single cell of like zombie man survive then the entire body of like zombie man might be able to be regeneratable to just a single cell like zombie man might be like that to extent of like the superior levels of like regenerative power of like zombie man might be like that to the game might be really interesting right now. Okay, so that was the story I'm seeing right now. That remember from maybe might be able to that move even wide in that predict that it might be that sort of the case that we can do that but they're different right now for like the so remember what's up right now to that both of like the body and that remember like going up like the remaining concepts in like the audience and it's different them down one by one and basically uh, and basically that way that I'm looking for like to my bang on that getting to at least engage but coming back to that one uh is like that going back that going back to like the battling it like the managed like the now getting to the different and the very yes, so like but even there I'm looking right now that makes some very different to send to let's go down on there like might be most likely solely that hoping to have like students gain a lot of like experience in that battling against like opponents in like in days around might be like that with the left and some way maybe it might be might have been only feeling that they feel that against like the stronger opponents that the base that eventually this like will be getting into that serious trouble like and so like at that point like for at that point for like when difficult battles to that usually and to just like sort of might be what that atoms have might be what still after when atoms have why when we have like things that to that sort of like that problem and situation against like sort of from a point of like one of the days and like it's sort of getting to like this sort of like situation for only at that point for like atoms have right to like interfere and up to the you might be along the line so like the secret plan it might actually for like right like leadership is definitely then that time like while setting up like students while preparing to like end up expert on to like that them might at that time might be from a distance might be steady but that actual experience that might be for like the resources might have been like activities like might be very interesting so that we are right now for like the crystal of like systems right making it to like bring down like the squad of like narrative alone might be this section is not that good and like again like the one that the with like I'm good with eventually the race product of that and some by ending up eventually getting forward with that individual like basic not that and working and so defined as like that would be about different down one of like the student and after looking at that kind to be that something handily sidelining to complex student and emphasizing to be debating like of the student and she will be about to bring down like the student at that point that's like you it's not being able to that anything about it but like at that very last second is when different for like right to like make select and basically come to the skill level like students selecting the scenario so that at that point I'm not taking for academic some right to as students to that they review so far and basically from this point on like I don't know where like they have things and they make for them to like watch and learn and that on the different thing of like and the battle between like Adam Sunrise and like woman like the way started with that point like dance and I'm so different stuff to be most likely hiding a superpower like I'm different like we might be having a monster transformation form might be like the case that limit everything where like you might be able to summon monster created sense of that powerful monster unveiling from like the monster of the future days at that point after that transformation might be that the game that we might be there. So that way like I'm just bring like the main battle of Black Adam done by two billion get happening for the man like series of tsunami that are everything and my billion is what I'm looking at right now. It's for my coming up confidence or like on the back planning like coming on battle against like the woman that was perspective now is that so the coming on plan on the my team to like seize away lecture with from like the woman and basically the control that the battle might be along the lines of that trying to become those things in us to like the favorite to like so for like on him up initially focusing on like sidelining like the squad like narrative and then attempting to see that then identify the see like the to get along the lines of like starting become maybe 24 like I'm a master like but like when as like I mean to be authentic to dancing the way so where like I'm going to bring that the moment that but like not be really not being like for much longer to that the way and I mean not as like not to be about the things the way and but that will allow the kind of to bring like what dedicated squad like getting back up and from behind like them capturing they must like not let a bit in that way they must like at that point like there's a grip on the whip and basically at that point I'm going to putting for like the woman opponent like at the space and bringing I mean on the transport at that point is like the scenario that I'm doing of getting back a bit and basically that way I'm not for it until like upfront for like chance benefit and that way I'm going to bring it to the for like I'm sitting remembering for like for mechanism right to still most likely be concerned about the students that like I'm sure kind of some way academically regarding like check up on the tech students like not excited about it. So like that way once that eventually I'm going to bring up I must I'm like I don't summarize going out to get like location and at that point I'm going to bring that I think some like having battle against that the squad with technology as well as that as well as Amema being controlled by that the one like the wind that way. That to be that's the value which I'm going to bring into the actually that is the new thing. That way like I can make some right from the bring still managing to that defeat like the entire squad uh and Amema without uh without stopping any loss like was now that I'm going to bring so that and that way I'm going to bring for like an example right to be the if you think like the woman look like the son it's not that good picture like at that point I'm going to bring like that in that time like I don't know and you know might have been aware of that all the happenings of like Amema like 5 year old when so came back to and that because of like the thing Amema like come from Poland that when I'm not might be struggling to use that willpower to that bring well from like the control but like Amema willpower maybe I'm just bring not be strong at that point just like it's not that so like what that one direction I don't know the repeating that was like look back at that point I'm going to for like coming off so they have the name best of them having got control by the one percent it's not that I'm so like at that point I'm going to bring that Adam some right maybe front of like Adam best I mean I didn't figure on and at that point and at that point, I'm totally looking for like I mean, not even up on the like adjective in front of like and some right and basically telling I think some right in that pretending to be negatively man or like telling telling some right to like not tell anyone about like something having gotten taken controlled by like the one it's like the rules and now that I was and today. It is still under the real still remember that I mean of the love like it might have been last year's been like the long document. It might have been exactly the days but I remember things and it might have been I may not that myself that involves that might have always forced out to be to play like a monster because and that might have been maybe an activity might have been due to that maybe even way back then I may must feel also the black font black hero that to be the ultimate going to be like the ultimate champion of justice. So like the Believe things like that Amima might be like the polar opposite of that Garo. who, unlike Java, who wants to be, that wants to be a monster, ultimate monster like when that, Amima might so badly want to be that might be obsessed with that deserve to actually that ultimate might be that the case the women Amima will do that, bring down in one thing focus coming out action or not to be seeing as like monsters and villains who oppose like alternative that very of that coming out might be far too strong. So like the legal Ethereum right now that like might not be a short term and might be maybe like be one of the people that made zero in like that and the opposition might be like that the best that and not maybe she's passionate about wanting to be the ultimate hero and like ultimate champion of justice where like like I career might be a mark that actually might be wearing for like well to acquire wealth and fame and power and using all of that for minimum actual true goal and actual priority might be to that stuff to soon eventually be able to like stuff to soon hero associated with like minimum being like the leader of that hero game might be where like only heroes that minimum for alone will be getting to so that might be they don't might be the extreme role of like the maybe like the majority of like the hero currently working for like the person hero association. Uh, and might be think that the majority of them as like undeserving to be a hero. Might be like that is the biggest definitely not great. So definitely I'm just trying checking with my friends like I mean of like secret actual goal might be like staff to some eventually clear the like staff to some hero association and basically one that was like a hero for like Abimas and like his hero of the different group of like hero that he Abimas will be uploaded like for them to like battle and bring down and destroy slash the actual hero. So this might be along the lines of like maybe that to the extreme extent to which like Abimas might be also like the form of like the ultimate hero and like the ultimate champion of like something that I mean, might be kind of for reputation of that his own for your ideologies might be that the to which that the kind of fear of associate existing fear of association and its rules and ideologies might be totally naturally might be against that the for fear of ideologies that I mean might be believing in steadily membrane. So that itself might be creating a lot of like discomfort and lack of fit within like while being part of like the current existing universe, so it might be that the case so like once like running a brain might be planning of creating his own for over at that point after different might be totally intending on that only accepting your teenagers whom would be seen as like worthy and not solely in terms of like potential to join this like about the but also when it comes to that like the other requirement might be for those individuals to do that like they be willing to that for like for your ideology. So it's like you know the real right now for like the other opponents to like not only just be able to that use to like have as like a weapon alone, but like think for like into that you also be able to like spread to like care and take flight and even like use the care to like fly around. Okay, so like I believe my computer and everything right now. So that the three students of that exam right like I'm definitely putting the research cheering like the beating that I have not so like doing this not in that under different for like I'm so different for them to like for to go like the majority of the battle but like usually I'm different that the higher that the battle to very change slowly through a scenario where some sort of thing and the hair monster hair might be having a weakness which might be one uh, making contact with like what my feel and that will the game kind of positive and like so like I'm just putting like an injury the battle progressing to the point where like I'm preparing like them getting to a location near point and maybe want to follow like one like the that I'm perspective. At that point I'm really putting for like the back is eventually getting up to the point where like the counter is changing us actually more like the like what lecture now it's like a bit one six now that I'm so like at that point then like the Carbon struggling and basically at that point I'm putting the three students of like academic now like figuring out that some stuff to controlling that sort of like that water like the weakness and the that point like batting against like the most of the black but identical to like put like the uh, carbon to try to like have like have uh, we forced to like make contact with that what say now in and that way it becomes considering and our difficult the situation at that point might feel less than literally until it like one in like the car five like and like the car monster might not be able to like use the care aspect use the power of the car might feel like the activity user is like the car monster being forced to such a situation and this be at that point, really trying for like as three students of like and trying to not stay in any time and they're trying to like straight away bring down like the hair monster. But like I'm looking like at that point like the hair monster most likely using an ultimate strategy which so it actually most likely in most likely identical like some like one of them the students of like might would have like like the hair monster so like that when the that's product for example like the sound of like the also and this is standing it like the way of like other two students like I can put like down like the weekend amount of and they then bring on that point for like the amount of managing to that try out like the one in yeah enough to like the point of being able to that again back to the extent of that because like with non dynamic and that way like I'm pretty much again like the three students at that point getting into trouble with now that at that point, I'm going to bring back the most of like foreign language product, like from India, code, and like make it one of like students like now while trying to like at that point like sorry that student down is like not available to them, but like the food product like providing their way into like still managing like product that student like not available to them, while they only uh getting during the process like the like we like and like as like they will be other people will be struggling against like 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 the student with like the until that point we have had like the customer like so like at that point I'm going to bring for that student like from Q3 going up to like the area where the water will be and if we have managed to like somehow find some kind of diagnostic or something to like collect that water and still the end of the clothing from behind that is the like throwing all that water on to like the air like the air and basically at that point like the police students then will be bring down like the air like the tsunami that I'm looking for so like but even the engine right now is for like some way to like not like for the phone again like everything got inside but like I'm looking that in like the sword battle lamp to different for like some fight to like even surpass like the maximum field of that sword battle of that which got deeper like to now battle so like at that point I'm looking machine got deeper being a sort of dog and that and machine got deeper at that point getting the spread and that most likely switching from like sword battle to that we can go deeper in the different now it's like robotic like or like cyber like robotic beams and lasers and such weapons like again like at some ways like now that I'm so at that point is when I'm looking for like I don't know right to like stand left when I came like we can go deeper and that way I'm looking like I don't mix up I get some or for by like we can go deeper is like now that I'm looking at like we should go deeper will be about to like bring now to make some that point that like bring up that point I don't summarize that like not giving up and like suppressing the current limits on that point and basically like under the second man of like him I don't summarize that by suppressing his tank limits is how one and some by attaining some massive level of like power here and with that how one to impact some right to like finally power and the second or two is we want to really right now that like it will be very like taking like metal night parts might like they upgraded like the form of like it will be with those parts of like metal night and the overall front of that machine was be by might have sharpening with that when might have been one that happened you know to like those form parts of like metal night existing within this might be a fundamental existing within like working might be only part that like an example right might have not been so it might be like that sort of the expecting so it's like I believe I'm very question right now but like it might be that the health of sensitivity and monitor like younger product that might be right now saving the name of them so that even that monster as well might be able to like transform into like centipede like monster might be like against the human race but like might be nowhere near like the might not be able to like transform into like nowhere near like the rise of like the health of centipede might be like the human race and that is what might be maybe like the younger product syndicate might have been always jealous of the elder syndicate. And also one of the what might be like the younger product syndicate what might be at present might be the person that he might have found out about like the job like the elder syndicate that he might have been just really waiting to like for like the chance to like battle and to teach like the heroes that defeated like the elder syndicate so that like he could like find himself as a might be along the lines of like the intentions and the goals that like the young what might be the syndicate monster uh might be having a certain event.